going on, everybody? It's Gem Live and welcome back to another video. And today we are talking about the Western Conference Finals. And I really do want to talk about the Lakers and Nuggets right now, but we have to talk about how we got here because I did not think the Nuggets would be in this series along with the rest of the world, I think. So what happened to the Clippers? The Clippers went into the series, they were up 3-1. In Game 5, they had a 19-point lead. Game 6, they had a 16-point lead. Game 7, they had a 12-point lead, and they lost all 3 of those games. And how did that even happen? They had the better team on paper. They had the better team during the regular season. But what I want to say is I know this has a lot to do with Kawhi Leonard, and you can say he didn't show up, but he didn't show up in Game 7. But people are going to say, well, he had a great series, but he didn't show up in Game 7. Well, we have to be consistent on how we judge athletes because an amazing regular season can be nullified by a bad postseason. We did this with Giannis. We do this with Lamar Jackson. And even like in a smaller series, so if a whole regular season can be nullified by postseason, a whole series can be nullified by a Game 7 because that's when they needed you. That's when you had to show up. That's when you had to win the game. Kawhi Leonard and Paul George both weren't there. They combined for 24 points. Kawhi with 14, Paul George with 10. And Kawhi Leonard only had 2 points in the whole second half. This was a game. They were up 12 in the first half, and they let the game slip away from them. And I think it was their we're too good for this attitude that really did them in because the whole regular season they thought they were too good for this. They would let players take extended breaks, not practice, not go to shoot-arounds. They didn't want to go to the bubble. Like they were only focused on playing the Lakers. And I could see during the regular season, the games where they actually played the hardest were against the Lakers. That's who they had their eyes on. That's who they were set on. You have to look right in front of you and play the team, and you can't give up a 3-1 lead with multiple double-digit leads. So they're too good for them attitude didn't end up working. We have to criticize Kawhi like we do everyone else. We can't give him a pass for what he's done in the past because we don't do that for other athletes. And Doc Rivers got outcoached by Mike Malone. He wasn't calling timeouts when the Nuggets were going on runs. He didn't change what they were doing for Jokic when he was getting like 15 assists when they doubled him. They had to do something. They didn't. The players didn't execute. It was really sad. I was really looking forward to this Lakers-Clippers series, but I don't know. The better team wins in a 7-game series, and do I think the better team won? I really don't. I think the Clippers were a better team, but I think the Nuggets were a better team with all the intangibles that you can't account for with grit, determination, hard defense, like things that won't show up on the stat sheet and make you the better team. The Nuggets did all those things right, and that's why they're in the spot. They very much so deserve it. So let's talk about it. Nikola Jokic is the best player on the Nuggets, even when Jamal Murray scores 40 to 50 points in a game. And that seems a little weird, but even in that Game 7, Jamal Murray had 40 points. Nikola Jokic had like 16 points, like 16 assists, and like 23 rebounds or something along those lines. It was crazy. When you look out there, that's who they run their offense through. He's their rim protector. He's a young star who over quarantine lost a ton of weight, looks in a lot better shape, and is able to play 40 plus minutes a night in these games. So and this is why I think the Lakers have a huge advantage, because usually the team that has the advantage that the other team can't counteract, or they don't have an opposing advantage, that's the team that usually wins. And that's why the Clippers should have won. They had these amazing wing players that the Nuggets really didn't have. Their wing players are their role players. They didn't have like Michael Porter Jr., Torrey Craig, Jeremy Grant. Those aren't their stars. So they had an amazing advantage at wing, but none of those teams. The Nuggets had an amazing advantage at center. So that's why it was such a good series. But when you have something where there's not a counteraction to the advantage, and I'll explain why. So the Nuggets' best player is Nikola Jokic. Well, that's not really an advantage because the Lakers have Anthony Davis, the best center in the league, Dwight Howard, multiple-time Defensive Player of the Year, very athletic, very strong. They have JaVale McGee, and if it comes down to it and nothing's really working and they want LeBron to take a less offensive load, they'll put LeBron and Nikola Jokic because he can guard 1 through 5. So I really don't see Nikola Jokic being a huge advantage for the Nuggets. He's still their best player, but Anthony Davis is going to do the same kind of stuff on the other end. He's just as explosive, amazing on defense. And this is where the Lakers are really going to miss Avery Bradley, because the Nuggets' next star, Jamal Murray, they really don't have like a great person that can guard them. I mean, of course, you can be like, put LeBron on them. That's not really how it works. In a playoff series, the starters are playing almost all the minutes. You can't have LeBron trying to go out there for 35, 40 points, passing the ball, assisting it, taking the ball up the court, and then have the most exhausting role on defense guarding Jamal Murray, because he is all over the place. He's so shifty, so quick. So I really don't see them doing that. Avery Bradley would be a perfect matchup. Avery Bradley, just go sit in the corner, get your rest on offense. When it comes, the Nuggets take the ball down, play lockdown defense on Jamal Murray. I think this would be an even easier series for the Lakers. But they don't have Avery Bradley. He decided to opt out, and so that's going to be very interesting to see if they're going to put Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, if they're going to put Rondo, Caruso. They're just going to have to throw a lot of bodies at him, because Jamal Murray does not tire out, and he can get hotter than anyone in the NBA. We've seen him go for 50 multiple games in a row. So you really have to watch out for Jamal Murray if you're looking at this from a Lakers perspective. And I think LeBron, he's going to say he's going to play whoever is in front of him, and it doesn't matter. LeBron has to be so refreshed it's not the Clippers. The Clippers are a very scary team, and even from the beginning of the season, Kawhi came out with that New Balance commercial with the king dangling on his keychain and on there, and it says Kawhi Town instead of LA. Like, this was a rivalry from the very beginning. The first and second best record in the West. They played 4 times. They went 2-2. These are 2 very evenly matched teams. LeBron has to have a little bit of a relief that he's going against a very young team on his way to the finals. So I think LeBron has to be happy. He would never, ever, ever say, he says it doesn't matter. And even if you want to say the Nuggets are the better team because they won, the Clippers are a better team to play the Lakers. They're a much tougher matchup for them. And I'm going to go from the Lakers' perspective. I think Kyle Kuzma is going to be the weakest point in this series, because I think he's going to try and get his going, and I don't think he's going to have a very good matchup, because I see Michael Porter Jr., Torrey Craig, all these role players, Jeremy Grant, playing very good defense on him, and he's not the type of person to say, oh, I don't have it going right now, I'm going to pass it, I'm going to dish it out. That is not Kyle Kuzma. He's going to jack up his shots no matter what. And so if it comes down to it and the Lakers are down and Kyle Kuzma tries to go in takeover mode, I see that being a problem and costing the Lakers a game or two. But besides that, the Lakers don't have an answer for LeBron James. The Lakers don't have a great answer for Anthony Davis. All the role players on the Lakers and Nuggets, I think, could be interchanged, because I think they're very similar in how they play. Just kind of like good role, catch and shoot, play pretty good defense. They could be interchanged on both teams, and I don't think anything would be different. So when you want to look at it like that, you're going to look at Jamal Murray, Nikola Jokic. I would say their next best player is a amazing rising young player in Michael Porter Jr. And then you have LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and then you have JaVale and Dwight Howard to also guard Nikola Jokic. I don't think this is going to be too hard for the Lakers. The last 2 series, the Lakers gave up game 1 to Portland, game 1 to Houston, then they swept the rest. I could see something very similar happening to that. I could see Jamal Murray and Jokic getting hot another game. So I'm going to say Lakers in 5, maybe 6, but if I had to go on paper, I'm going to say 5. But my last bit of advice for the Lakers, if they want to win in 5 or 6, is if you are up 3-0, if you are up 20 in a game, I don't care if it's in the 3rd quarter, early in the 4th, if you're up by any margin, do not ease up, do not take your starters out. It is not time to rest these Nuggets team. As we've seen, they've done it so much throughout the season, and they did it 3 times in a row in this last series. They can come back from anything. They can get hot. So the Lakers cannot let off the gas. If you're up 20, your goal should be up 40. So that's my prediction. I can't wait to see how this series goes. Game 1 is tonight. I cannot wait. Comment down below, who do you have winning? Do you think the Nuggets could upset the Lakers? Do you think this series could go 7 games? Because personally, I don't see that. But let me know down in the comments. And as always, I'll see you next time. Peace.